Bhante, how does ahimsa and the 5 precepts and refraining from evil connect with the loving kindness practice? I think it is very obvious. I think I answered this question a couple of times. Ahimsa is non-violence. When somebody practices loving kindness, compassion, one observes naturally, automatically ahimsa. So it is directly related to the practice of loving kindness. And observing the 5 precepts also, a precept to abstain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and taking intoxicating drinks and drugs that causes infatuation and heedlessness, also are related. As you know, the first precept to abstain from killing is direct opposite of loving kindness and compassion, and appreciate your joy. You appreciate others' life and equanimity. All the 4 Brahma Viharas are there, particularly first 3 are involved with the abstaining from killing. Somebody who practices loving friendliness can no way kill any living being, because it is such a cruel thing. Somebody practices compassion can never think of killing any living being. Then the next precept, stealing things. Of course, we steal things with greed, sometimes with hatred. And somebody cultivating appreciative joy and enjoying others' happiness, success and achievements would never steal anything from anybody. Then the sexual misconduct, as I mentioned also earlier, that if somebody violates somebody's privacy, somebody's principles, that is again is violation of the loving kindness and compassion and appreciative joy. And lying, people lie under various circumstances. Somebody who practices loving kindness and so forth would not lie, because it hurts others, hurts oneself, and anything that hurts somebody, oneself and others, one would not commit when one practices this. And taking intoxicants can break all the other precepts. Once you are intoxicated, mind is altered, mind is not in normal state, so you may lie and you don't want to reveal to others, so you lie, and you will perhaps lead to killing and so forth. So all the precepts are connected with the 4 Brahma Viharas. And abstaining from evil certainly is connected with the Brahma Viharas. And that is why I said many times, this is the basis of all wholesome karmas, wholesome activities. The breaking the precept is not wholesome activity. So anytime we break any of them, we violate that loving kindness practice. Here is a very tricky question. I sometimes don't like to answer questions like this because they are so complicated, so sensitive. This is during childbirth, can a physician take the life of the child to save the life of the mother? What about abortions? to save a woman's life. Now, karmically speaking, if somebody saves a mother's life and kills the child's child, or save the child and kills the mother, in either case you commit two karmas, one wholesome, one unwholesome. By saving the mother's life, you commit wholesome karma. By killing the baby, you commit unwholesome karma. So at the same time, you commit both karmas. Now, somebody practicing this loving kindness, compassion, and so forth would prevent by all means from committing any of these karmas. I don't want to get involved in this abortion thing because it is very, very sensitive. People say it is our business, whether to kill or whether to abort or to cherish the embryo. Normally people do whatever they want, whatever the precept is there, they do whatever they want. And if they want us to justify whatever they do, perhaps we cannot justify that. People can do whatever they like. Now, as I mentioned several times, at the moment of conception, from the very moment of conception, life begins. And therefore, whether you kill that life after 2 days, 5 days, 6 weeks, after 1 month, or 6 months, or after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it's just the same. It's just the same. So, since unborn babies have no way to defend themselves, we make the decision. We make the decision whether to kill or not. If by some miraculous power, if they give them a chance to defend themselves, they would not permit us to do that. But virtually it is not possible. And therefore, I think there are many millions of people who do not have children. And perhaps if a baby is born, you always can find a home, a place for the baby. But the problem is that those who do not want would say, well, why should I go through all this trouble for 9 months, keeping the baby in? And therefore, why not I abort? And so for so many arguments one can bring out to pro and against this abortion things. But from the very strict religious standpoint, it cannot be justified, only from the religious standpoint. And we consider it, of course people, they don't really want religion to interfere in whatever they want to do. So they make a decision everywhere. Here is another question. Every day at meals, we say we are helping the Brahmacharya life. What is the Brahmacharya life? Brahmacharya life simply means celibate life. Life of celibacy. Here is another question. This is also very simple in a way, but tricky on the other hand. Will I be thrown out of the Bhavana society for not believing in reincarnation? No. Maybe. We actually don't talk about reincarnation, we talk about rebirth. So, if you do not believe in reincarnation, we don't throw you out. Even if you do not believe in rebirth, we don't throw you out. Don't worry about it. You know whether you believe whether you believe in it or not, it's not going to make any difference to your life or to other lives. But in Kalama Sutta, Buddha gave us 4 solaces, if you remember that. He said, if there is a rebirth, then if you do something wholesome now, no, if there is no rebirth at all, but if you do something wholesome now, something good, not hurt anybody, not steal, not kill, and so forth, you are not cruel, not wicked, and do all wonderful, wholesome things all the time, according to your conscience, you will be happy in this very life, even if there is no rebirth. You don't have to worry about it. But if there is rebirth, second solace is, you will be rewarded twice. Next life you will have a very better state of existence. On the other hand, if you do evil, suppose there is no rebirth, if you do evil deeds in this life, trying to be mean, committing all kind of wrong things in this life, you are in trouble. You don't have to have a rebirth to pay for what you are doing. You will be caught by the legal system and punished, or the society will punish, neighbors will punish, your own members will punish. If there is rebirth, then you will be punished twice, now and in future. Perhaps that's all you have to remember. And these all are left to individuals to make the decision. No organization. One thing in if you hurt somebody, if you steal somebody, if you something from somebody, if you commit some offense here, then we have to throw you out. But if you hold certain views in your mind, and it doesn't affect anybody in the society, that may not be enough reason for us to throw you out. What you have in mind has to put into action in order for us to take action. Here at the Bhavana Society, does noble silence also mean no smiling? Isn't a smile one of the easiest manifestations of loving friendliness? I have been with Sri Lankans who smiled throughout 10-day retreat. It created much warm and friendly feelings all around. I don't know, when I see somebody even during a silent retreat, I smile. That may be our habit, but I noticed in many retreat centers, they look very grim. Look down and they say, don't, no eye contact, no eye contact, and so forth. I think because you have eye contact, then you contact your mind also with eye contact, and then some messages will, exchange between people, and therefore they want to be very strict. Perhaps that they might be thinking that that kind of silent communication might lead into something. Therefore they advise people not to have eye contact. I remember a story of a Russian woman who came here for a retreat. She was very disappointed, depressed, and very hard time she had with a boyfriend. So when she consulted her friends, they recommended her to go to a certain place. They did not tell her what that place was. Asked her, go to such and such a place, you can get some help. So she packed up her things and went there. Then when she was leaving, she told her boyfriend, now when I come back, I don't want to see you again. Pack all your things up and leave my apartment completely empty. I don't want any of your things. So she went to that particular place and with a suitcase and went there. There was nobody to welcome her. Everybody was walking very slowly, casting their eyes on the floor without looking at each other, and she felt so strange. She put her suitcase under a tree and began to cry, thinking that her friend sent her to a mental hospital. Because these people don't look at each other, they are so grim. She said she cried for 1 whole hour. She did not know what to make out of that. So she said, after 1 hour, these people, she heard the bell. So she saw everybody walking into a large hall, and she also followed. And sat at the very end of the crowd. And there, in few minutes, came a monk with an interpreter, one or two monks. And he delivered the sermon, all in Burmese. And she said, because of her poor English, she could not understand the translator's translation, but she understood only 20-30% of the talk. And she said that was enough for her. And immediately she went, found somebody to register. She got registered, stayed there, spent 1 whole week, 10 days. And she was so happy after that. When she returned home, she found her apartment was completely cleaned up. Totally clean up, literally clean up. There was nothing, her pots and pans and furniture, even the pictures on the walls, all were taken away. And it was just walls and the floor and roof. And she said she sat down and laughed about 15 to 20 minutes out of joy. One thing that he is gone. Second thing, that time on, she did not have to dust anything, water plants, and clean anything, so forth. All, very simple life. Anyway, I little extended the story. I wanted to mention only that part, that when she went there, she felt that all these are mental patients, not talking with anybody, very grim looking and so forth. So it has, beneficial effects as well as not so beneficial effects. We normally don't mention not to have eye contact. Bhavana society is known for some sort of relaxed, and when people come and leave this place, they say they are very friendly people. I think it doesn't hurt us if we just if happen to eye contact and smile and look down and walk away. But keep smiling and looking at each other and having other communications may lead into different things. Here is another question. I don't want to answer this. That is related to pornography. I don't think I have to answer that question. Here is another question. Someone put the question on the blackboard. I am you as you are me, as you are her, and we all are one together. This is from the Beatles. I don't know whether I read it correctly. Sometimes when we practice metta meditation, it feels we are all interconnected. It may even feel like we are part of one big, great self. What is the correct view of this feeling? If you this also comes from the background of training yourself, the one who asked the question. Some believe that there is a huge one universal self, and all living beings are tiny little parts of particles of that big self. So you allude to that big self that people normally believe when you ask this question, that you feel that you are a part of a big self. This is not just a feeling, this is a very well developed philosophical system. In that system, this is already expressed very clearly. Someone who does not have this feeling, that kind of education, may still feel that all of us are one, not a part of one. Whole, complete one. When you say you are part of one self, bigger self, then I think we have left out that self. We want to include even that self and make us all one self. Not self actually, all one living, breathing beings. One whole, one unit. That feeling is actually very good feeling, so that when we all feel as one, we don't want to hurt a part of it. When we treat all living beings as one being, there may not be any space in our mind to hurt one. We want to treat all alike. So, as Buddha said, Sabbe tasanti dandasa sabbe bhayanti machuno attanam upamam katva na haneya na ghataye. All beings are afraid of kajal, the stick. All living beings are afraid of death. Therefore, comparing oneself with others, one should not kill or hurt anybody. So if I feel that all of us and me are one, then when I hurt somebody, I am the one who feels the hurt, because that is a part of the whole unity. If we feel that way, then even this controversial term self would not be involved in it. Even if we preclude that, still the feeling will be the same. Another question, is vipassana practice more important than the metta practice? I know of quite a few places in the Washington DC area for vipassana practice and instructions, but it's hard to find metta instructions and practice. Do you know why this is, or am I just hanging out in the wrong places? Actually, not emphasizing metta or not including metta into vipassana meditation may be sort of lopsided training. The training should include metta as well. I think most meditation centers include metta practice. I don't know any place since I have never been to any of their sessions. I don't know how they conduct meditation. My belief is that they all, if you ask the question, if you ask a meditation teacher the question about metta, I think certainly that person will explain to you and say how that fits into vipassana meditation. If they don't teach it, perhaps they might have oversighted it, but not deliberately preclude metta meditation. Because all vipassana meditators know the value of metta meditation. Therefore, this may simply be an oversighting on their part. If you happen to be in one of these meditation places, one day you may ask meditation instructor this question: is it all right for us to practice metta meditation before or after or during meditation? The first part of the question is vipassana practice more important than metta practice? Actually, when we practice vipassana, metta naturally comes in. Therefore, we cannot say vipassana metta is less important. As I have been talking about metta during this week, you can see the very prominent place is given to the practice of metta, especially in the Noble Eightfold Path. The right thought, samma sankappa, avyapada sankappa, avihimsa sankappa, nekkamma sankappa. Nekkamma sankappa, avyapada sankappa, ahimsa sankappa. Two of the right thoughts belong to for Brahmaviharas. That means thought of loving friendliness, thought of avyapada means thought of non-hatred. Non-hatred is it's given in a negative form, it's simply, positively speaking, it simply means the practice of metta. Avyapada sankalpa means the thought of metta, loving friendliness. Second is avihimsa sankalpa, thought of non-violence, non-cruelty, that is compassion. So 2 of the 4 sublime, illimitable, immeasurable practices are in the heart of the Buddha's teaching. And therefore we cannot say it is less important. It is as important as mindfulness, as important as the right understanding and so forth. As I mentioned several times, when Buddha spent so much time talking and practicing and teaching metta, how can that be less important? It cannot be, and that is why it is included in. And sometimes when you talk about metta, some people ask this question: where in Buddhism can we find metta? Has Buddha taught it in Four Noble Truths? In the Four Noble Truths we don't find metta. People say, surely what is Four Noble Truths? Suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, path leading to the end of suffering. And the path leading to the end of suffering divided into these 8 steps. The second of the 8 steps is loving kindness. 3 of the factors of right thoughts. First right thought is the thought of giving up, renunciation. Second right thought is loving kindness or loving friendliness. Third right thought is thought of compassion. So it is, you can find it right in the Four Noble Truths. Some people ask, where dana can we find in the Buddha's teaching? Generosity. You can find the dana right in the second aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path. Second step, renunciation. Renunciation simply means letting go of our greed, clinging, craving. That is the whole practice of dana. So, please remember, metta practice is not less important. It is as equal, as important as mindfulness, as important as anything else. How does one practice metta towards others while still maintaining one's own set of standards? Set of standards. For example, when students want their grade changed, but their work is not deserving. Okay. How does one practice metta towards others while still maintaining one's own set of standards? For example, when students want their grade changed, but their work is not deserving. I don't think students' request, if you comply with the students' request like this, you are not practicing metta. You are hurting them. Because if the student doesn't deserve the grade the student likes, and if you simply grant, then you are not encouraging the student to study hard. Out of love, out of compassion, you may grant grades. So the student becomes lazy and expected in every class to get that kind of treatment from every teacher. Eventually you may hurt that student's progress, not giving proper education. Even at the end, the student may pass through this kind of favorite treatments, pass examinations, but when the student comes to apply the knowledge, there would be loopholes, problems, because the student has not studied things properly, and you, out of maybe compassion, granted grades unfairly, I should say. I don't think that's correct. The correct approach, I think, if you are very compassionate, is to take the student out and talk to the student and explain things very clearly and encourage the student to learn better to get good grade. Student should qualify himself or herself to get good grades. So that is what I would think one should do to encourage the students or to show their loving kindness or compassion. I often find stress, confusion and pressure on the mundane world to be overwhelming. While I feel certain that my metta practice will be much improved after this retreat, I fear restlessness over time. Restlessness? Yes, restlessness over time. Can you give some practical advice to help retain the important improvement while struggling with the mundane? Surely one secret in doing this regularly without sliding back is repetition. Repetition in words, repetition in thoughts, and repetition in deeds. You know, even with some difficulty, try to find a way to express your loving, friendly, compassionate thoughts. Volunteer yourself to help somebody around you, member of the family or friend or somebody, without any ulterior motive, just to express your inner feeling of loving friendliness, compassion. In fact, when you open your eyes and come out of your house or inside the house, you will see plenty of opportunity to do something to express your inner feeling of loving friendliness or compassion, appreciative joy. So, if you repeat it every day, little by little, it will stay in your mind. And at the same time, if you repeat these words, passages that we have recited here, it has some magic power. Repetition has a magic power. We repeat every day. Sometimes it becomes so ingrained, so deeply rooted in our mind, we cannot forget. They stay in the mind. So it comes to you automatically. And therefore, no matter in what situation you are, you can develop this thought. May not be very easy at the beginning. In a situation like this, it is very easy because these are all words, and there's not very much to do. But there are no other external activities. But when you go back to society, home and work and so forth, there are many things to obstruct your practice, and therefore it may be not very easy. However, if you make the commitment to yourself, at least to think of these words, think of these thoughts every single day, it will come out very easily to put into practice, to say something very friendly. Can the 4 Brahma Viharas and the 4 foundations of mindfulness be practiced at the same time? And if so, how? In fact, at the very outset of 4 foundations of mindfulness, the practice of loving kindness and so forth is recommended. During the practice of vipassana meditation, there will be hundreds of opportunities to practice loving kindness meditation, loving friendly meditation. For instance, when you meditate, practicing vipassana meditation, all of a sudden you feel, you get angry, disappointed, resentment, maybe towards a fellow meditator, or within yourself, or another, without any apparent reason, you get upset. And that is a very good moment to start the practice of loving kindness to yourself, to relax your body, to relax your mind, calm yourself, experience peace, and stay in that state of mind to experience the joy, happiness coming out of your metta towards yourself, loving kindness towards yourself. And then the resentment slowly fades away. Compassion you can practice. While you are practicing vipassana meditation, you are suppose engaged in very deep vipassana meditation, and all of a sudden somebody may have, you experience somebody having difficulties, problems. At that time, you can practice compassion. At the same time, while you are practicing vipassana meditation, you see somebody else is doing gorgeously well. The practice going on with some people, very good. At that time, you can appreciate it. That appreciation encourages your practice. You feel more friendly with the person, you may be more relaxed, and you can practice your vipassana very easily. So, definitely while practicing vipassana meditation, 4 foundations of mindfulness meditation, we can practice the 4 Brahma Viharas without any problem. In working with the breath, this is another question. In working with the breath, is it better to stay focused on the nostrils, or is it just as good to focus attention on the movement of the toes? I find that your question is okay. I find that the latter helps me to soften more, but wonder if focus on the tip of the nose, tip of the nostrils is better for concentration. Okay. In working with the breath, I read the question again. Is it better to stay focused on the nostrils? Or is it just as good to focus attention on the movement of the torso?
Maybe it's torso.
Torso.
Middle part of the body.
Torso.
Good.
Thank you. I find that the latter helps me to soften more, but wonder if focus on the tip of the nostrils is better for concentration. It doesn't matter whether the tip of the nose or nostrils or abdomen or whatever, one particular place to gain concentration. When you notice impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, selflessness, you can notice in any of these things, whether you are at the tip of the nose or abdomen, or it doesn't matter, or whole torso practice. For instance, when you notice the rise and fall of the abdomen, you can see impermanence. When you focus mind on the breathing, you can see impermanence. Focus mind on the tip of the nose or nostrils, you can see impermanence, because breath is always changing every single moment. You have a new breath. It is changing, so you can focus your mind on that. But if you want to gain true concentration, forget about impermanence and so on. Simply notice the feeling of the sensation that arises as you breathe in and out through the nostrils. As breath touches the tip of the nose or nostrils, there you focus your mind just to gain concentration. When we come to Vipassana meditation, there are more things to say. Gaining concentration is absolutely necessary part of Vipassana meditation. We don't think these are two separate practices, as some people think. Because only when you see things, when you gain concentration, the concentrated mind can see things as they really are. So that is what we do in Vipassana. We first gain concentration and use that concentration to see, to focus the mind on the aggregates, to see them as they are. Only through powerful concentration you can see the aggregates exactly as they are. That is Vipassana. Seeing aggregates exactly as they are is Vipassana. Gaining concentration is tranquility or samadhi. And therefore, these two always must go hand in hand. And we don't try to play down concentration at the expense of mindfulness. These two must go together. And therefore, when you focus your mind on the breathing, first try to gain concentration, some degree of concentration. And through that concentration, try to see impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. Changes you can see very clearly through that kind of concentration. If there is no concentration, you may see the changes going on. Your awareness, your understanding of them is not very deep. Sometimes you may start with that, however. You may start with seeing impermanence and so forth, and still you got to gain concentration in order to deepen that understanding of impermanence and so forth. Next question. Since we've been listening to the beautiful chanting by the reincarnated boy, I have been thinking, all men are created equal. People are born not only with different genes, some better or worse, than others, but also with various karmas from their past lives, some better or worse than others. This is in the total contradiction to the philosophy that created this country. Surely this country is not created on this philosophy, on this philosophy of karma and rebirth. This country is not created, the country, but whatever it is in the constitution and so forth is created on the basis of something else, not on the basis of karma and rebirth, surely. So I should agree with you when you say beings are not created equal. You have to bear with me when I speak about that. Sometimes we say we are not created equal. We certainly are created different. Each and every one of us is created different. Created by karma. Karma is our creator. So Buddha said, I am talking about what Buddha taught. According to Buddha's teaching, karma is kammang satte vibhajati yadidang hina panitataya. Kammang satte vibhajati yadidang hina panitataya. Vibhajati means divide. According to it divides beings into different categories. According to what they do, how they do, what they do. And therefore, there are always differences among humans, non-humans, and so forth. And therefore, in that respect, we are not equal. Our performances, our appearance, our skills, and so forth and so on, everything is different. But fundamentally, we all have same raw material. We all are made up of 4 elements. We all have 5 aggregates. We all have feelings, perception, thoughts, forms, and so forth. And therefore, in that respect, as far as the raw material is concerned, we all are one. But other intricacies inside us are different. And these differences are due to karmas. And therefore, according to the Buddha's teaching, we are not created equal, but we are born different from person to person because of our own karma. Kammam satti vibhajati. Karma divides beings into various categories, various status, various positions, situations. And that is why we are so different from one another. Friends, that can end the questions and answers. I wanted to take only 1 hour for that, so we can play that tape a little bit, about 10-15 minutes, just to calm your mind before you go to bed.